Welcome to Beyond the Expert, a production of Gold Corp in which we speak with capital markets experts about what they're seeing in the markets. Today, we welcome Canadian mining legend and principal at the newly launched Giant Venture Capital Group, Ewan Downie. To say that Ewan Downie is a successful company builder and entrepreneur with over 25 years of experience in the mining industry would be an understatement. Prior to forming Giant Venture Capital, he served as the CEO of I-80 Gold Corp, held the position of President CEO of Premier Gold Mines and Wolfden Resources, both of which were ultimately acquired in accretive takeover transactions. Throughout his career, Ewan has been a part of numerous gold and base metal discoveries, earning recognition for his achievements, including being awarded the 2003 Prospector and Developers Bill Dennis Prospector of the Year. I know that's a long name for an award. And that was for a major polymetallic base metal discovery in Canada. Ewan, welcome back to Agoracom, my friend.
Good to see you again, and thank you for having me on.
Hey, great to have you because you're kind of pioneering, and we're going to talk about Giant Venture Capital in a second. But before we get to that, for those who aren't familiar with you, and I kind of touched on it briefly, but tell us a little bit about, you've had this long career, so we can't do a whole biography here, but tell us a little bit about your biggest success story as a CEO of Premier Gold Mines. I want everyone at home to really understand what kind of a great exit you guys had there.
I'd say the biggest success story we had at Premier Gold Mines was making really solid acquisitions of great projects throughout the company's history. The most popular one being the Greenstone acquisition from Barrick. It was a property we called Hardrock in Premier. It's a gold project here in northwestern Ontario. I live in northwestern Ontario, that I'd had my eyes on for years and years, and was ultimately able to make the acquisition from Barrick. I think the transaction was about a $3 million acquisition. We subsequently took that old mine, just delineated a major what appeared to be big open pit resource, took it through permitting, took it through feasibility, and ultimately the company was taken over. It was built over the last couple of years, and I believe is the newest gold mine in Canada right now, about a 2-hour drive here from my house where I'm doing this interview.
And congratulations. Then you've got a string of successes, obviously. And Premier itself was acquired, right?
Yeah, Premier was acquired by Equinox Gold. And Equinox Gold is a multi-billion-dollar company, and their flagship project of that company now is essentially Premier. The Greenstone mine is their flagship asset, and kudos to them for building it, because it was a big capital build, and they seem to have really started churning out the gold there in the last quarter, and hopefully that continues going forward.
Well, kudos to you for getting to that stage, because without you, that wouldn't have happened. How are you seeing? Look, the Canadian the junior exploration mining space is having its difficulty a little bit because of structural issues like naked short selling. Also, probably suffering a little bit from attention deficit because people are so enamored with AI and blockchain, crypto, even now quantum computing stocks and things like that. But that doesn't take away from the industry itself. How are you seeing the Canadian exploration and mining scene today?
I'd say I see the Canadian mining and exploration scene. The mining scene's good. The metal prices are obviously very good. So if you're a producer, you should be making really good cash, or there's something wrong with your operation. But the exploration field has really found it difficult over the last couple of years. Despite the rise in gold price, there's a lot of 2-3 cent juniors out there who really have very little hope to raise capital, and that's unfortunate, because normally when you see metal prices rising like they have been, especially gold, we've seen the stocks just you play the stocks every day, you're buying and selling, and that just hasn't transpired. So I hope that changes. I think it's a result of you can put your money in, as you said, AI and Microsoft and those companies, and just park it. It's been just for a decade, just been going up, up, and up, and you don't even have to think about it. So mining is quite cyclical, up and downs, and you have to have a strong stomach, but it sure is an exciting business. So I I think we'll see a good recovery as soon as we see that level off of the U.S. markets.
And by the way, it's not like I prepped you on these questions in any way, shape, or form.
Not at
But
all.
I'm assuming, and I'm gonna ask you one more question before we get to it. But I'm assuming that's why you and your team saw, hey, let's form Giant Venture Capital because there's a real opportunity. I'm gonna ask that in a second. Before I do, I got one into me. I just thought about this. Do you think that we now see the strong possibility of a new Canadian administration in the federal government? I mean, nothing's for sure, but by all tells and all data and polling, it's going to happen. Do you think that will have any impact? Has the political administration also been a drag on the junior mining space?
I'd say definitely. I think Canada is viewed as the leading country when us in Australia are sort of viewed as the leading countries when it comes to mineral exploration, mineral development, expertise in the industry. But the regulatory environment in Canada has made it such that it is extremely difficult to get through permitting. There's a lot of unresolved issues with First Nation communities in our country that can result in delays in projects for years and years. And that's part of the reason why I think this industry has lost some of its luster, because you can't expect, like an oil well, when you hit it, you park the thing on top and boom, you're doing oil. It's an industry, takes a lot of capital, takes a lot of time, but when you're in a regulatory environment that is not conducive to building a mine quickly, it's a real drag on the companies. And everybody talks about the Lassonde curve because exploration, then you go into development and then production, and that's a real lull. I've witnessed it several times in my career, but because now it can take so long to get a permit, that down
That
part of the
lull can
Lassonde
really
curve
last a while.
can go on for years. We started working Greenstone in 2008 and it went into production in 2024. So, do the math, a
Now,
decade
can
and a
can the
half.
new administration fix that, Ewan, or is that a First Nations negotiating thing that may or may not be successful? I'm curious as to whether a new conservative federal government could remove a lot of regulations, but then maybe at the same time do better negotiations with the First Nations.
Well, you look at a province like Quebec kind of, I'd say they haven't fully dealt with the First Nation issue, but much more advanced in dealing with the First Nation issue. The First Nations have been involved in the mineral industry for decades now. They've been brought in through a program called the PDAC, and there's some of the funding, the tax money that comes out of mining operation that actually goes to First Nation communities. So mining isn't as foreign to, I'd say, the Aboriginal bands in Quebec. So I would say Quebec's a lot quicker to get a permit, and other provinces need to look at it like that, and so does the federal government. And unfortunately, a lot of places like Ontario have all of a sudden, there's a duty to consult through the Mining Act, but that duty is between the government and the First Nations. And what the government has done is thrown up their hands, said, well, you want to do this, you go do it. And no mining company is going to solve the differences between the federal government or the provincial or the federal government and the First Nation communities. So we're just thrown in as an in-between to hopefully appease the situation so that government doesn't have to deal with it. So, is there a government that is willing to tackle that? I think Ontario right now, the Minister of Mines is a gentleman named George Peary with a great track record, previously being in the industry. And I think he genuinely would like to make changes that are very positive for our industry. So we need more people like George in the government groups for this to happen. But
I got to admit, though, I've been a little bit disappointed in the provincial conservatives. When Ford won his last election, he said it from the podium during his victory speech. He said, "And we're going to build that road to the Ring of Fire." And here we are, and we've heard nothing. And I'm just surprised at their lack of movement there. I don't know if you feel the same, or maybe you're saying something different than I am.
yeah, I'd say I'm also a little or pretty disappointed in that the conservative government is supposed to be more pro-business, hasn't been more pro-business here in Ontario over the last 5-8 years than they have been. So I echo what you say, but at least you look at provinces like Ontario, which is trying to change things. They are making amendments to the Mining Act to try to improve it now, and what Quebec has done, and I think there is a political group, and I hope that my hope is the winner is going to be the Conservatives in the federal election, and Poilievre appears to understand that we're in a huge predicament and we've got to do something to pull out of it. And with our tax base, big businesses like Google, Microsoft, they're not moving their head office to Canada when they have to pay more than 50% of their wages in tax. No. So we're not going to attract big business. We're a resource-based economy. We have good oil and gas, and the Trudeau government is doing everything they can to destroy our resource industry. So I think the Liberals, I used to be a Liberal, but until the Trudeau government, I'm like, this is a disaster and we need a change in this country. So let's hope.
Yeah, and as a side conversation, I'll say the only flag I care about unconditionally is the Dallas Cowboys on a Sunday, but I'm not unconditional when it comes to politics. Like if the Trudeau Liberals were doing a great job, I wouldn't care that they're doing it under a Liberal flag. I'd say, hey, keep it going. But it's just been terrible. So yeah, we do need to change. So hopefully, if Poilievre wins, I hope he's got good people around him and will say tap on Ewan Downie's shoulder and bring him in here as part of a consultant, the way Trump is doing in the US, where he's bringing some good industry people around. Now, your next big venture, let's talk about this. The reason we're here is I was reading LinkedIn last week. I follow you on LinkedIn for obvious reasons. You're a legend. And your next big venture is Giant Venture Capital. Curious about that. When I saw that, I said, wow, why is he making the jump, or the switch rather, from the picks and shovels side and the drilling and mining side to the financing side? Let's talk about that. What spurred this? Because I wouldn't have seen it coming, and I congratulate you. What spurred the switch?
I'd say if I look back through my career, the most fun, the most rewarding times in my career in the public sector has been in the identification of key assets, acquiring those key assets, and doing solid exploration. And in mining companies, or when you run a mining company and you found a project, then as I said, you go through that Lassonde curve and you have to build it. And I don't like building mines. I would say I'm more of an explorationist than a miner. And I learned through the later years of Premier and starting up I-80, which is looking to build a huge platform in Nevada, that I'm not the builder, but I can put the piece of the puzzle together. And I think I'm a really good explorationist, patting myself on the shoulder. But
well, you got the PDAC award for 2003, so it's okay. You can do that.
And so going back to doing more exploration, but there's a lot of really, really, really good assets out there, and a lot of the really solid assets are held by major mining companies. And over the years, Falconbridge merged with Noranda, merged with Xstrata, all these companies got together and they were all full of assets. So these big companies have projects that people don't even know about sitting in their
little
portfolio.
Orphans, right?
Yeah. So few people know about, and that was like a greenstone, the Hardrock project we got out of Barrick. We acquired claims in Red Lake from Placer Dome that we made a pretty big discovery on, that they ultimately bought back from us. In the original Wolfden, our projects were acquired from companies like Inmet and Kennecott to create the High Lake Izok corridor. What we did in Nevada is we acquired projects from Waterton, from Barrick. So it's really, those have been the biggest success stories I'd say I've had in my career. And I've seen a lot more projects over my almost 30 years of doing this, and decided that I want to go back sort of the roots and do more grassroots startup opportunities where you can get a solid project, put together a great team, do really good exploration and either build the mine or get taken over, and 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 just invest in those opportunities. So not have the pressure of every day, what's your stock doing? What's the gold price doing? Having more fun. I
And
do
these
talk.
almost seem like they're more like advanced grassroots. There's a difference between George Calm Gold. I grabbed a few acres in Greece because my grandfather saw a shiny rock there once, and I'm going to pop some holes and hope that I find a treasure, but most likely not. You're actually able, and that's what I love about this model. It's quality over quantity. So you don't have a big fund and you're spraying money everywhere and hoping somebody hits. You're saying, hey, there's a real opportunity to grab these orphan but good little projects that are just not big enough for these big companies, and I can get these at a good price. Obviously, I don't know if you acquire them outright. Maybe we'll talk about that, or if you do a little rev split or property split with the majors. Say, hey, if you take this, take it. But let's talk about that model because I really like that model of quantity over quantity, and they're advanced grassroots projects, not pure grassroots.
Yeah, I'd say for the most part, we're looking at advanced grassroots. There's a couple of grassroots opportunities that we're also reviewing, one of which I owned in Red Lake Camp 20 some years ago. I'd like to revisit. So we're kind of looking at all stages of projects, but for the most part, looking for really good, very advanced stage opportunities. And the first that we launched was just a few weeks ago. We launched Nouveau Minerals. It's a brand newly traded company. It's a company that has
NMC on the TSX Venture.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for the symbol. I was kind of the founder, the startup of the company, and now I'm just a director. Put the old Premier team back together to run it. So Peter Van Alphen and Steve Filipovic are the key people there advancing it. But what we were able to do, and I was actually approached on this idea by Glencore, so the world's largest mining company, who I've got to know some of the people there, called me and said, "We've got an idea for you." At the time, they had was the Bracemac-McLeod mine. It's an operation they shut down 2 years ago. It was in operation in Quebec, the Matagami camp, one of the most prolific base metal mining camps in the world, and it has gold. The Detour mine is immediately along strike to the west. One of the biggest gold mines in Canada is in the same region, but is a massive land package that they had this mining operation. But Glencore being the biggest mining company, this project is a small mine for Glencore. And so Glencore is like, this mine's too small for us. We'd like somebody to take it over. And we thought of you. So we had some discussions. We did a deal, and it's a private company. I was running I-80 at the time, but they approached me while I was running I-80 with the idea. So we put this company together privately. We have now acquired the asset. It has a mill. It has everything you need for production. It has 6 deposits on the property. And now it's just a matter of going through the regulatory environment to restart it, which I said Quebec is quicker. The infrastructure is already there, and it should be a low capital startup opportunity that I think will be a huge success in the future. So once
and that's what I'm really excited about, you. And just to pause you there for a second, I like the fact that Nouveau, which is spelled, by the way, spelled Nuvau for everyone at home, but stock symbol is NMC. And not that we're promoting here because this isn't a promotion thing, but what I like about your model is it's almost as if investors can say, hey, this has gone through the giant venture capital / Ewan Downie filter. And that doesn't guarantee success, obviously, but it's a hell of a lot better than George, Bob, Mary, and a couple of lawyers got together, put a land package together, put some drilling together, and let's see what happens. I like the fact that, it gives investors a real good starting point. That's why I haven't looked at the Nouveau story, admittedly, where I saw it last week when you announced it, but I'm almost gonna, now you've told us some great stuff. Is that what you provide, and is that what you provide to the investment community who likes this industry, that it's almost like it's got a bit of a stamp on it, that has the Ewan Downie stamp? Doesn't guarantee success, but man, it guarantees it's had a good look by some pretty smart people.
Yeah, I hope that's what we provide, and but also access to projects that most people don't. So a new start, most junior mining companies out there, they want a big project, but if they were to call up a principal at Barrick or at Newmont or um, Gold, Glencore or a company like that, for the most part, a lot of instances, and I had this early on in my career, you don't even get a call back. So you're just totally ignored. Who's this guy? And I've got to know most of the people at these companies. I came from the exploration background, so I actually worked a lot of projects that are still that have been built or haven't been built yet in my previous past when I was much younger. But it is that access potentially to projects that others don't. In fact, in Giant, like as I said, I stepped down as a principal by when it went public. And I'm actually working on another transaction right now with Glencore to do, I'd say, another nouveau with another project that I think is just out of this world, stellar, here in Ontario. And we're working that project forward. And in the background, we're actually trying to do something in Nevada again with potentially another vehicle in the future. So sort of looking at opportunities across North America, sticking to North America. And
makes sense.
I'm starting to get a lot of people putting in sort of submissions through either LinkedIn, et cetera, have a look at our projects. So we are vetting more and more projects in the background. And if we saw the right opportunity, we would also be like, we could help line up investors as well for a really solid, what we saw as a really solid project, and we would invest alongside of that group.
How many companies would you expect giant venture capitals? Obviously, you're taking your time. You're not a listing farm where you're just trying to crank out all these companies. But at the same time, you guys are a capital company that wants to get liquidity and exit strategies, things like that. How many nouveaux a year would you expect would be going public? Two, three a year? How many? One a year? What do you?
Maybe one a year.
Wow,
Maybe.
you're gonna make us
So
all just kind of sit around and wait, huh?
you just got to find the right opportunity. If you look, there's a lot of junior mining companies out there, what I call project generators. So they have 10, 12 projects and they try to joint venture them out. They try to do exploration, kind of throw 12 projects at the wall and hope one sticks, right? As that saying goes. But it's trying to be a bit of a project generator, but really doing your homework on the property before. So if you look at how many projects are being worked out there, let's say there's 1,000 being worked right as we speak in Canada right now, two might become real deposits and one might become a mine. That's how infrequent it is to actually find a deposit that becomes a mining operation. And so it's
But to
if
be
we did
fair, that's also because there are a lot of people like George who are just
yeah,
scraping land together and treasure hunting, whereas your success rate isn't going to be 0.2%. I'm assuming you're starting from a
yeah.
much more advanced position when you're looking at something.
Yes, but it is those guys who do have multiple projects who hit that big home run that becomes a deposit. That's where in this industry you own that stock and it makes up for all the losses you had in the other ones. So that's kind of how I look at investing in mining. But for us, it's not a lot of projects really do a good vetting process of how likely is this to get permitted? How likely is this to get built? Is there upside? Is it in a jurisdiction that, you look at just what happened to Barrick, their Mali mines getting taken over or taken away. First
Their CEOs are
Quantum.
being arrested. Forget about the mine. Their
Yeah.
CEOs are getting arrested. It's crazy.
Yeah. So just look at where's a great jurisdiction to build a mine. If a project has been discovered in the past by a major mining company, but maybe wasn't big enough for them then, or something else 10 years ago became a priority. So this project got put on the shelf. It's being able to identify those to then hopefully have the credibility to acquire them and then put together a team that could actually develop it and bring it forward. And that's where I view as an investor like me, I've always invested in my companies and others, is where you make your most frequent success in this industry. And therefore, if we were doing 5 a year, we would be sort of, I hope this one works and I hope this one works. So we're looking for projects that it's not like I hope this is going to be a good one. It's like, wow, that looks like it is going to be a mining operation. Let's do that one. So be a bit more focused and strategic on what we're going to go after.
And really quickly before we wrap this up, I'm assuming that new technology, AI, things like that are taking provinces like Quebec and Ontario and British Columbia that maybe people think, well, there's not much more to find. It's been so picked and shoveled over all these years. There's nothing left out there. But new technology is finding new things, right?
Yeah, it certainly helps. I'd say on the base metal side, the tried and true methods for exploration still hold true today. Airborne geophysics is such an effective tool for base metal exploration that now it's advancements in how you process that data, how the quality of the sensors have improved year on year. So that's a great tool, and part of the reason why I like base metal exploration so much. The award you said, the big PDAC award, was a discovery we made using geophysics, airborne geophysics, to target an anomaly that became a major deposit. And so I really like base metal exploration because there are tools that are very, very effective that we use, and those get better and better. And I'm sure that we're applying AI to look at these data. I know I can't remember what the company was, but they take your database, and using AI, it churns out targets that maybe were overlooked in the past. And those
A couple
type
out
of
there now.
things
There's
are,
more than one. I think there's
yeah.
three. And we won't name any here, but I think there's some good ones out there. So that was my point. That there's a lot more potential discoveries out there for you to kind of to get ahead of. Hey, Ewan, if investors want to get involved or stay up to date with Giant Venture Capital and its progress, how do they do that?
I have a website, giantventurecapital.com. On that website, we highlight our key projects. So right now, Nuvo's on there. Actually going to be talking to Equinox, and I would actually like to advertise the Greenstone mine on my website for them. Just need to get their approval for that. And really just have, and next, hopefully we'll have a new symbol or a new company symbol that's a private company up on the site. And we'll be giving updates on that project as a private company that we will ultimately look at taking private over the next year or so. So yeah, that's the best way. And I am on LinkedIn. It's the only social media that I'm on, and I'm easily accessible.
We're gonna change that. But that's great, Ewan. Listen, congratulations on the launch of Giant Venture Capital. I think it's genius. I think it's timely. I think it's really smart because there are a lot of orphan assets out there and they don't have a home, and there's not a lot of interest because of all the reasons you and I discussed earlier in the interview. So they're just waiting for someone like you and your group to come along and nurture them and bring them to the market. And this is not investment advice for anybody at home, but I am going to take a very close look at Nouveau Minerals when I get a chance. We've just launched a couple of things this week, so I've been preoccupied. But I figure if it's gone through the giant,
Congratulations on that.
thank you, thank you. But I figure if it's gone through the Giant Venture Capital filter, I am definitely going to sit down, go through their website, go through their deck, go through the materials, and take a really close look at it. So, Ewan, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. We've only done these a couple of times, but I hope we do them a lot more. And when the next one comes, I'll be contacting you on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, here's the next one. Let's talk and let's continue this."
Yeah, and you see any good ideas, throw them my way.
Yeah, all kidding aside, yes, because a lot of times people say, "Hey, I've got a good idea." It's like, I don't know who to tell. I don't know who to tell this to. I don't have those kind of. Now that you're doing this, you're going to be top of the list. Thanks for joining us, Ewan. Have a great day, and to everyone at home, thanks for watching or thanks for listening on podcasts or wherever you listen to this. Have a great day. See you next time.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey small cap fam, I hope you loved this interview because more than a dozen people were involved in its production for the sole purpose of making you happy. If so, can you take a moment to support both our awesome guest company and Agora.com? Your engagement means the world to us. First, if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up by tapping that like button. It's a small gesture that helps this interview reach even more potential investors to discover today's guest. Second, we would love to hear your feedback on this interview, so please leave a comment below. Be sure to keep it clean, but feel free to poke fun at George. If you loved what you heard on today's video and want to dig into our guest company right away, take a look at the links in the description below. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to never miss another great Agora.com small cap video. Thank you so much. We couldn't do any of this without you. Make sure to come back soon.